Hey everybody, welcome back to part 2 of this video series on beginning Android app development. So right now I assume you already have Android Studio installed and I showed you the basics in the last video. So today I want to get into a little bit of programming. So I have Android Studio open up here. I'm going to click on Start a New Android Studio Project and we'll call this my second app. You can put in a domain name, so if you don't have something, you can put test.com, decide where you want to save it to, then make sure you check include Kotlin support and hit next. All the defaults on this screen are fine, so let's go ahead and click next. And then on this screen, we'll go ahead and do basic activity, click next. And on this screen, there's nothing to change, so go ahead and click finish. And this will start your sample, our second app here, my second app. By default, inside of the Android Studio projects, inside of your folder, my second app. So this is very good. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assume that you watched the previous video, so you're all set up with this. So you have downloaded Android Studio onto your Windows, Mac, or PC, and you already got set up. So today, just to kind of recap, I'm going to go ahead up here and click the Run button. And normally when I do these videos or when I'm working during the day at my day job, I use the keyboard shortcut, which is on different, I think it's different from on Mac, on PC, I'm not sure. I'm on a Mac here, but I'm going to go ahead and click the Run button. And in the last video, I explained briefly how to set up a virtual device. So you should have a virtual device set up and click OK, just to make sure we have something that we can play with. Hey, great. It looks pretty much identical. So good job. Okay, cool. So what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about layouts today. And we'll write a little bit of code today, but if you don't know what code is or you're a little bit lost, that's okay, don't worry. So we have this hello world there, and you might notice that it has like some blue markings. It's like from the left and the right and top and bottom. You can actually kind of move that around and position it different places. So if you kind of notice, it'll like snap to some of the like you have this line on the right if you see it when I move it. It's giving it a little bit of padding and margin. But if you go back to the center again, you can see, yeah, it's in the it's kind of in the center of your screen. Then we have this floating action button, which we're not gonna really do anything with. So let's just go ahead and click on Hello World and hit the delete button to get rid of that. So what I want to do is I want to add an image to this screen. I kind of want to put my picture on the front. So let's do this. I'm going to open up Finder, and I have a picture, Daniel.jpg. I just have it in Finder. So if you're on Windows, you can use whatever the equivalent is there. I'm not sure exactly. But on Mac, you can go ahead and select your image and do Command-C to copy it. And so this is what I want you to do. So now that you have it copied, go inside of Android Studio, make sure you're inside of Android View, and then open up App, Resources, Drawables, and on this folder, make sure you select it, then do Command-V to paste it there. And it'll have some options. You can just click OK and click OK, and there we go. So if I double click the image now, you can see, hey, here's an image of me. It's kind of small, and hopefully yours isn't too high resolution. But anyways, there's the picture. So I want to put it inside of here. So how exactly do we do this? Well, the good thing is there are a couple of ways to do this, but there is also a very easy way to do this. So on the left side, so first make sure you have App, Resources, and then Layouts open. Then click on Content Main. This is going to be open by default if you just created a new app like we just did. But then on the left side, you see how we have images there. I'm going to click on Image View, and I'm going to click and drag that. I'm going to drag it right into the center, and you can see you have little guidelines, and I'm going to let go. And this pops up, and this gives you an option to select an image. So I'm going to go ahead and select Daniel, the image that I just pasted inside of the Drawables folder, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So here's our first image. So here it is, and you might notice you can kind of position it around the screen. So maybe you want this to kind of be like Facebook. You want your profile picture in the middle. You want some you can kind of like design it yourself however you want to design it. You can put it in the top left corner. You can kind of snaps and moves around and stuff. So what I want to do is I want to position it on the top half of the screen. So maybe if that's the middle, say the middle of the screen is right about there, I want to put it right about in this area up here. So how do I do that? Well, So to do this, there's kind of an easy way to do it. But I just want to point out that all of this layout editor it's just for design mode. If you want to look at the underlying code, you can click on text, and here is the underlying code. You can see there's our image view. So the image view that I just dragged over to here and put in the picture, that's actually being represented by this the lesser than sign and image view. And you can see we have an ID, we have layout width and height, and you probably have never seen this before, but you might recognize this. See where it says Daniel there? It says app source compat equals drawable Daniel. That's referencing the image that we placed inside of our drawables folder. So maybe yours is Nick or Mel or Deb or Nathan or whatever, or Rachel or Hannah or whatever. You can use that same text. You can just do Nate there or whatever the name of your file is. So this is the underlying code. Now, now I can show you what's a little bit more helpful. But if you select the image and go over to the right side of your screen and click on attributes, you can see a lot of these attributes can be set from here directly, and there's this arrow that'll kind of toggle between all of them and some of the most important ones. So we can see I can kind of drag it around, I can move it around. So let's say I want to do something. I want to put it in the top of the screen. So what I can do is so you have your image here with and you notice you have little indicators there, little circles. So I'm going to click and drag this, and I'm going to drag it to the left until it hits the screen, and then I'm going to let go. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to click and drag it until it kind of has that. Then I'm also going to do it in the top. So I'm going to click and drag up to the top. And you might notice this looks kind of weird. I want it to take up the whole space. So see how there's this white gap up there and there's this white gap up there and there? So I want to get rid of that. So how do I do that? So there's one option. We could go into the text mode and we could get rid of some of or we could just do it all here, but I want to do it in code. Or not in code, but I want to do it in this design view mode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the image, and yeah, you'll notice if you select it or deselect it, you'll have different options over here on the right. So I'm going to select the image, and I'm going to click where it says 8, and I'm going to change that to 0. And I'm going to click, make sure you select the image again, and this should be more apparent. I'm going to make it the 0. And then on the right side, actually we'll go ahead and do it for 8 for right now, but I'll show you in just a second what's going on. So this image, I want it to take up the whole width. I want it to go all the way over to there. So how do I do that? So I can do that by changing this I can kind of toggle between different modes by clicking this over here. So that looks kind of good. So that's not so good, not so good. That's kind of what we want. We want it to take up the entire room there. But you can see there's still a little gap there. So what's going on? So basically this image isn't big enough, or it isn't the right aspect ratio to fit the whole space. So let's do something over here. So let's select the image and make sure you have attributes open again. And I'm going to come to the bottom, and you might need to click that toggle. I'm going to go ahead and do scale type, and I'm going to change it to center crop. And you can notice if you kind of toggle between different ones, you can kind of see what they do. So some of them are stretched, like that doesn't look very good. It looks kind of stretched. We can start, or if you want it near the end or the center, you can kind of play around with this and try different stuff. But what I'm going to do is center crop. So that means basically I want it to take up the entire room, even if you have to crop some of the image. So if I go to fit center, you'll see, hey, some of my hair is cut off there. So if I go to center crop, I'm kind of cutting my head off a little bit. Okay, cool. But there's still a little bit of gap over on the left side. So how exactly do we get rid of that? Well, that's what we can do over here. So I'm going to change it to 0 there, and that gets rid of that. And I'm going to change it to 0 over here. So if you do want a little bit of space, you can make it whatever you want. You can make it 24. You can make the top 24. This gives it a little bit of spacing. So there. If that's how you want it, then that's kind of cool. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to drag in a text view. So I want to put my name down here. So how do I do that? So I'm going to go ahead and select all over here on the left side and make sure you're in design mode and not text mode. Like if I wanted to, I could do it here. So I could do text view, wrap. I could give it an ID, but I could do all it in code. But there's an easier way to do it, and that's in design mode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select text, and then the text view up here, I'm going to click and drag down here. I'm just going to put it somewhere down there. So that's fine for right now. Now you'll notice you'll have some options over here, and if you click again on attributes, you can actually see them. That kind of toggles it closed and open and closed. So select the text view, and you'll notice you have text over here. So text can be danielmalone.com, enter, and you'll see, hey, now we get Daniel Malone, but I want to put it right underneath my image. So how do I do that? So what I can do is I can kind of pull it up there, but what I want to do is click and drag, and I'm going to drag until it kind of falls into place there. So isn't that kind of cool? It kind of gives it a little bit of padding. Now if I want to add more spacing to the top, I can do a little bit more. So I'll do 24 like the other ones. So say I select my image, you can tell that, yeah, it's 24, 24, 24. So this picture, so my name right there has 24 on the top. So I want to center it exactly. So I'm going to do this arrow, and I'm going to click and drag to the left side. Then I'm going to click and drag to the right side, and that should center it precisely in the middle. So right below my picture. So this is kind of cool. So say you want to change this to something else. All you have to do is come over here to the text view and do Android, or type out whatever you want it to say. So this is kind of cool. So I'm going to go ahead and run it. So I'm going to click the run button up here, and I'm going to switch to my emulator, and this should pop up in just a second with my picture and Android, and it does. So very cool. So let's continue let's just see what else we can do here. So just to show you a little bit what code is, I'm going to switch from the design mode at the bottom, and I'm going to switch over to text view. So this is like the underlying code that actually powers the app. So when I'm dragging in a text view, or when I'm dragging in an image button or whatever, what's happening behind the scenes is Android is saying, hey, I'm going to generate some code for you. So, oh, you want an image? Here's your image. Oh, you want some text? Here's your text view. And this is probably all going to be very confusing to you, but one of the things, like some important things to note out is, remember, see how we have 24 there and 24, 24? Well, if I go back to design mode, you can see if I select the image, we gave it 24 over there. So say we change this to 32, and change this to 32, and change this one to 32. And say I select the Android text view, and I change the top to 32. And then I go back to text view, you'll notice, hey, now this says 32. So if I wanted to make it 0, I can either do it right here in the code, or I could go to design mode and make it all 0 there. So now if I select my image, you see it says 0 there. So generally, this design mode is good for starting out, but when you need more control, or when you want to see what's going on behind the scenes, it can be helpful to open up the text view and kind of see what's going on. So here's some text. I'm going to say Android is cool. And you'll notice that it has, so look for the text view, and it has a bunch of stuff like ID and width and height and margin and stuff. But the thing you want to change is called text, and you'll see it has quotes. You can just select that and say Daniel Malone, or you can do Mel or Deb or whatever. You can type out Android is awesome. And so if you go back to design mode, it says Android is awesome now. So I'm going to go ahead and run this, and we can see the changes that we've made so far. So cool. Now we have Android is awesome, and we have my picture, and hopefully that's a picture of you. And if you want to, you can even do stuff like, say we want to set it a specific amount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the image and go over to the right and see where it says layout height. I'm going to change that to 100 dp. That makes it kind of not very tall. Let's try 200 dp. So 200 dp, enter, makes it a little bit bigger. Let's try 300. So 300 dp, and there we go. So you want to make that even bigger? Let's do 500 dp. And so that's a little bit too big. So let's do 400 dp, enter. So I can go ahead and save this and click the run button again, and my picture should be a lot bigger in the emulator. So yeah, and there, it's a lot bigger now. And so you can play around with stuff if you want. Say you want to add a little bit of spacing again. You can give it 8, then 8. You can even you can position this around how you like. So I think this is enough for this video. And the next video, we're going to write some Kotlin code. So we're actually going to make it say Android is awesome, and then every time you press every time you press this button, it's gonna add something to the counter. So right now, when you click on this floating action button, it just pops that up, and I can swipe to get it away. Well, in the next video, we're going to write a little bit of Kotlin code. So we're going to go over to app Java, but this is actually going to be Kotlin code and not Java. I'm going to click on the first folder and double click main activity. And this is what Kotlin code looks like. If you're curious what it looks like, and this is probably going to be very confusing, but in the next video, I'm going to walk you through how to write some code and how to make it so every time you click that button, the pink button right there, every time you click it, it's going to increase the counter. So you'll have a little counter like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it'll go all the way up to 100 or maybe 10, I don't know, 15, 20 maybe. Then we'll also learn how to open up a different screen. So say you have a picture of me, but you also want a picture of your dog. Well, we'll create another screen where you can click a button and it will open up another screen with a picture of your dog. We'll do that in the next video, so join me then.